Good afternoon. My name is Gerald John Van Ryken, and I am standing in my backyard here on 654 McKinley Street in Neenah, Wisconsin. Looks like I'm going to have to mow the lawn pretty soon, which is very disheartening. But I didn't mow the lawn for good reason, because you can see that some of the grass here is longer than others. My neighbors have recently cut their lawn. Thanks for them for that, I guess. But my grass is a little bit longer, so it's easy to tell where the property line is here on 654 McKinley. I don't know if this is going to be easily seen on the video or not. I think my neighbors might actually be out here. I'm going to ask them a question. Excuse me.
Yeah.
How's it going? Do you mind if I videotape a little bit in your backyard? We're having our arbitration to try to settle the differences that we've had regarding the backyard. Do you mind if I walk around back there and take a little video of the fence, that sort of thing, just to make sure? Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Now, I don't want to make my neighbors salty. I don't want to make them upset at me. That's just not neighborly. Hey, how's it going there, Jeannie? But this was supposed to be my backyard right here. And the reason that I purchased this home, in fact, was for two reasons. One of them was for the backyard, and the other was for the basement. Now, I could take this video camera down into the basement, but there wouldn't be much to talk about down there because I'm extremely pleased with the basement. However, my mother, who I did try to purchase this house for, is not happy at all with the backyard. When we were showed the property back, almost 2 years ago now, this yard was just perfect. It was just perfect. My mom wants to make a prairie restoration, whatever that means, which basically means she wants to put weird plants in the backyard. And this fence was vital to her plans, because she could put really, really tall prairie plants up against this fence. Now, the reason I wanted this yard is we could plant 2 trees right here by this fence, and that would give me shade for my dog. Now, this is not my real dog, but I hope someday soon to have a real Siberian Husky at my side, and we were going to build the kennel in here, and we're going to have the 2 shade trees here to give him a little shade, because it is hot today. I'm guessing by the end of this video I'm going to be one sweaty fella. It's pushing 90 degrees. Now, trying to see what else I want to say here. All right, but here's the actual, like I said, the actual line of the property. Now, when we were showed this piece of property by Rachel, the only real discrepancy that we had about the property, there was no question that this section that I'm standing in right now was our yard, according to Rachel, when we were sold the property. The only discrepancy we had was this little armpit of the world back here in this corner. We didn't know whose property this little square chunk is here. And we asked if this was ours because my mom thought this would be a great place for a mulch pile. Just put a big pile of organic waste in this corner and call it a day. Now, the thing is, I think I just received a letter in the mail from Mr. Kaler. Hope I pronounced that right on film. Mr. Kaler, that, you know, technically, by the letter in the law, we got the square footage of yard that, you know, was on the sheet, but or that we were due, and that might be true, but not having this part of the yard really kind of hurts the resale value of this property, and it really, really, really hurts the dreams and ideas and landscaping capability of my ma. Having this part as the backyard, well, there's not many organic plants that'll take to cement. And this little part here, that technically was going to be my part of the backyard, is going to be basically one giant digging pen for the dog, because huskies do love to dig. So this is not going to stay pristine for long. So, you know, my mom's not happy. My mom's not happy with the yard, and I wrote to Mr. Kaler about that fact, and I'm hoping that we can make things right. Now, when we met with Jack Drzwicki a while ago to try to settle this thing, you know, he's like, you know, asking us, you know, how much money is it going to take to make us happy? Is it going to take, you know, $1,000, $1 million, $100,000? And we came up with the figure of $19,000. And that's kind of a, you know, where did we get that figure? Well, a lot of that figure came from this irregular shaped lot over here. Now this is a lot that's for sale, and I have the paperwork inside. And we were very interested in, you know, wow, you know what? Could we get this basically blank slate here? Because this would be a great place for a prairie restoration. I mean, it's got the fence, it's got everything, it's got an irregular shape, and it had a price. And unfortunately, that's a rectangle. I'll get to that later. But unfortunately, this chunk of land is already sold. This chunk of land is already sold. So we can't do it. But I did use it to formulate, you know, basically how much is that chunk of property worth on my backyard, because from what I've seen on the computer, if this is the backyard here, and this is the actual shape of our yard, and this being our yard here, this is 60 feet, and this is 60 feet right here, according to the computer. So what we're missing out on is basically half of a square, a right triangle, that's 60 by 60, and 60 times 60 is 3,600 square feet. And if you divide that in half, because it's half of that because it's a triangle, that's 1,800 square feet. Now that's a lot of square footage, and I don't want to say that chunk of backyard is like prime real estate with oil wells on it and really important, but it is really important to us because it has the unique fact that it is adjacent to our backyard and technically should have been part of our backyard. So I figured, using this chunk of land as a benchmark, that $4 a square foot for that yard times 1,800 is $7,200. So that's how much I think the land value of that triangle in the backyard is worth. And maybe that's very simple, maybe that's very naive. I'm sure that the formula that people use to calculate the value of a lot is much more complicated than that, but that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. And I'm guessing that you can probably go to like a hardwood floor store, and it's probably more expensive than $4 a square foot to put hardware floors in a basement. So I think $4 is a reasonable amount. Now another thing I want to point out, it's getting hot, is that the house, and I've been doing a lot of rounding with these numbers, the value of the house is somewhere in the neighborhood of $120,000. You know, actually I think it might be 117, it might be 119. I think the value is 119 and change. and maybe we bought it for 117. All that paperwork's inside, and I'll bring that along with me to the arbitration. But 6%, that's the commission. 6% of $720,000 is $7,200, which, you know, I'm a man that believes there are no coincidences, there are only miracles. So the price that Century 21 and Rachel and the good people like Jack Wiki made off the sale of the home on 654 McKinley is pretty darn exactly the same as the value of the land, $7,200. So 72 and 72, that's 1440 or 14,400. So $14,400 is I think a fair number as far as the settlement goes. Why is that? Well, I don't know exactly how much time I spent in the company of Rachel Bashand. I know I met her twice. I'm guessing that I spent maybe 2 to 3 hours with the woman, and I remember a lot about what happened with her, you know, and our transactions together. And then, of course, there was another time when I met her at the closing. So maybe I spent a total of 4 hours with her, because the closing was super fast. It didn't take hardly any time at all. But I'm not a lawyer, but it takes me quite a while on my state wages to make $7,200. $7,200 is quite a bit of money, and for 3 or 4 hours work, I just kind of feel that you should do your job right when you're getting that kind of money. And I think a lot of other people in the world would see that the same way as I do too. If you're going to make $7,200 for 4 or 5 hours work, you really should do your job right. And you would think that, you know, maybe a good business would be willing to say, hey, you know what, our bad, our screw up, you know, you can have our portion of the sale back as a refund. And yeah, keep dreaming. I was talking to my mom about that, and I don't think I'm gonna walk down to Hardee's. There's a Hardee's down the road that way, about 1.5 miles. My first job that I had as a kid was working at Hardee's, making burgers and fries. And my boss told me that anytime there's an unhappy customer, that they will tell 20 people at least about their bad experience with Hardee's. So what we would do in the good old days is just give them like free gift certificates. We give them, you know, free meal coupons, you know, like, we're sorry that your burger had onions on it when you didn't ask for onions. Here's a coupon for another free burger. Give us another chance. And it seems to me today that that philosophy has just kind of gone out the way of the window, because the world is so darn competitive and everybody is concerned about that bottom line that they just can't really, you know, we can't be writing checks or our competition's going to be eating us alive. And that's, you know, kind of just the way the sad society is. But I think that asking for the commission back from this sale is not unreasonable at all. I think that a lot of other people would feel the same thing too. And $14,400 is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk. And the reason it was $5,000 more than that, $19,000, is because of that magical number, pain and suffering. Like, how much, you know, pain and suffering does my ma have? Well, you're gonna have to talk to her about that. And I'm thinking that if my ma had $19,000 to spend on that backyard, it would be a Garden of Eden, to say the least. I mean, she could have fountains, she could have, you know, maybe rarer plants than she expected. But the truth is, every time my ma goes out into that backyard, she's gonna look at the place, you know, and say, you know, this isn't the yard I want. And who wants to live in a house, you know, that you don't want to live in? That's kind of sucky. I mean, a house is not a new pair of shoes. You just can't, you know, take the shoes back, you know, and get a different pair. And, you know, it's not even a new car. A new car you can, you know, trade in or sell. But so I guess the big important part with the money aspect of this settlement is to make sure that my ma is happy, and that when she steps out into the backyard, she's happy to be there. And if that isn't ever going to happen, I think the other, you know, avenue that we have to investigate is, you know, buying the house back. And if we do that, it's going to be very, very, very expensive. We got the value of the house itself, which is $119,000. I think it's fair that I'd be giving my closing costs back. That's another $3,000. I had the $8,000 for the first-time home buyer tax credit. I'm gonna have to pay that back to the government. That's not really fair. So it'd be all right. I think it's fair to ask for that $8,000 to pay the government back, which means I'm out $8,000, which, you know, I'm probably entitled to. So that's another $8,000. And then we put in all the handicap stuff for grandma and everything else. And of course we have all receipts. I even put in new gutters on the garage, and like being made whole, being made whole is going to be very, very pricey. And then at the end of the day, of course, you know, Century 21 is going to have, you know, the house on 654 McKinley to sell again. But, you know, kind of lots of luck. I think the reason that property was so, you know, hot to trot to sell is because of that awesome, or theoretically awesome, backyard. I mean, that was an awesome, awesome backyard. It was perfect. It was perfect for the dog. It was perfect for my mom. It was just all around perfect. And, ooh, I know you don't really want to see this camper for sale, but $2,800? I don't know. If this doesn't go well, you know, heck, maybe I'll have to end up living there. You never know. But, oh my, I just walked all this way for nothing. There used to be a Century 21 sign right here on the corner of this street. I don't know if this house was sold and they took that Century 21 sign down or not. So I got dressed up and walked all this way for nothing. There used to be a Century 21 sign right here. So, well, I guess I got some exercise, but now I get to go home and not use a visual aid, because what's going to happen, like I was saying, is that Century 21 is going to have this house with a regular shaped yard. I think it's going to be hard to sell that property. I really do. And I'm a reasonable guy. And I'm hoping, you know, maybe when you guys make your arguments, things will make more sense to me. But right now, from what I've talked to friends and colleagues, they think that I have definitely gotten the raw end of the deal, you know. And in fact, some of my good friends have suggested that it's time for torches and pitchforks. And I don't think that's necessary. I think our society is a little bit more civil than that the days for torches and pitchforks are done. But I think it's extremely, extremely interesting that one of the first things that Mr. Kaler had to say when we just started talking is that, you know, let's not do anything hasty with regards to the internet, you know, or get emotional, you know. And it's hard not to be emotional in this, you know, kind of situation. No one likes to get, you know, ripped off or scammed or cheated. I mean, but I don't think that I'm angry, but I'm not ashamed of telling this story to my friends and to my coworkers because, you know, I like to do what's right. I really do. So I'm hoping that we can come to an agreement and come to a settlement. I'm carrying around this piece of paper from Judge Piero. She's, I think, one of those judges on the television, kind of like Judge Judy. And she wrote to me, or at least her director did, you know, saying that she wanted to put this case on nationwide TV for people to see. So to me, that means that this case that we have here has merit. That if someone's willing to put this story on nationwide TV, you know, there's definitely some merit here. And I'm curious to find out how this whole story ends up turning out. You know, things do happen for a reason, and maybe, you know, having this goofy backyard is going to be a blessing in disguise. You know, not just because, you know, I stand to make a quick buck. Howdy, neighbors. But, you know, maybe this can be a lesson to show that, you know, money is not the most important thing in the world. And I'm hoping that tomorrow, this is tomorrow, that we come to a settlement and we can come to an agreement, and we can end this interesting story on a positive note. But the most important thing is that no matter how many experts you hire, no matter how many math wizards or lawyers you hire, there's just no way that any common sense human being, jury, judge, lawyer, or otherwise, is going to say that this is a rectangle. You know, I mean, that's, you know, kind of like O.J. Simpson's, you know, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. There's no way people can say that this is a rectangle. I mean, you can fly in the greatest mathematical expert from wherever, and there's no way that they're going to be able to say, yep, that's a rectangle. You know, my geometry teacher, you know, if it comes to it, I might have to subpoena her and put her on the stand and make sure that she can tell the world that this is not a rectangle. But we were promised a rectangle, and that's not what we got. So I'm hoping that we can come to a resolution that makes everybody whole.